Are you looking for a new whiskey adventure? Then climb in and buckle up. Get ready for one hell of a ride on the Whiskey Trip podcast with your host, Big Chief. Join in as he and his guests explore whiskey and dive into whiskey stories from around the world. Now here's your host, Big Chief.
Hey, it's old Big Chief, and yeah, you're taking another ride on the Whiskey Trip, listeners, and I've got a story for you. I've got a brand for you, and I got Mr. Tripp Stimson. I always mess that up, from Barrell Craft Spirits with me. Tripp, welcome to the Whiskey Trip. Did I say your name right?
Pretty close. Good to be here again. Tripp Stimson, Stimson.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, welcome to the Whiskey Trip, my friend. This is your second ride on the podcast, and usually when people get a second ride with me, that means that I've enjoyed having you on, and I definitely enjoy the whiskey, and I definitely enjoy your guys' stuff. I think you're doing some kind of witchy magic up there in Kentucky in blending, and I think that's a true art form to take barrels and blend them together. And you definitely sent me some whiskey, and the first whiskey I got in my glass tonight is Barrell Craft Spirits, the Foundation. It's a single barrel. Can you walk me through what's in this barrel right here?
Yeah, so last time we talked about a new product that we were releasing called Barrell Foundation, and that was going to be the first product that we ever released that was less than cask strength. So up until that point, we didn't release anything where we added water. So we took that as a challenge and wanted to view water as a flavor component and put together a product that was 100 proof. So we did that. We released it. It did very well. We actually, since you and I have talked, it's been a little bit of time. We also released a Foundation double barrel product. And so that double barrel product is where we took different components of the Foundation, did a secondary maturation in toasted American oak barrels, and then put the Foundation blend back together. And so that thing's just, it's amazing. I mean, the toasted characteristics that are in that, just incredibly well received. And so the conversations around both of those products have been going on, and we've been getting a lot of interest in possibly doing some sort of single barrel program with the Foundation releases. So what you have in front of you tonight is one of the first barrels within the Founders series, Foundation Founder Series single barrel program. And the way we create these single barrels is we take some of the different components that we're planning to use in this single barrel. We'll cut them down to about 102, 103 proof or so, put the blend together, and then put it in the barrel. So we have basically a micro blend, like what we talked about last time, that we've put together, and we're finishing it in an individual barrel. That individual barrel then can be selected by a club or an account, and they can have that entire barrel. True 5.
Man, this thing is this. You guys did wonderful at this right here. This is 104.08 proof, and it's got this like nutty characteristic to it, almost like you're drinking a Snickers bar to me, with those peanuts in there and stuff. Really beautiful expression. Hats off to you on this. I don't want to review the whole thing because this ain't a review show, but I love drinking beautiful whiskey. A great proof on this, 104. That's getting near that 107, that magical number for me. Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say that. But what a beautiful whiskey. And I'm assuming this is a rye bourbon right here. And I could be wrong. But
it's many times when just me personally, I like high-rye bourbons. And when we start putting these blends together, it's really fascinating to see that even with all the different bourbons and whiskeys that we blend with, the final blends always end up into that sweet spot for us somewhere around, that 12, 15, 18 on up into the low 20% rye contribution. It just, for whatever reason, it just seems to balance so well at that percent rate.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's tell listeners, especially listeners that are new and viewers out there on YouTube, let's tell them about how did Barrell Craft Spirits start?
So Barrell Craft Spirits, we've been around now about 12 years. It's been. We released our first bottles in 2013, I believe, were the first ones. That was a time when the craft movement was just getting started. There were a lot of people trying to get into the industry. The spirits industry as a whole was really booming, and the common knowledge was that, well, the common perception was that in order to get into this industry, you have to have a distillery. And so people are trying to figure out who to talk to, consultants to talk to, build a distillery, where to put it, and do all these things. And, that's not, that was not necessarily the only approach to getting into this business. And at that time, it wasn't as well known that there's a commodities industry where you can, with the proper licenses and relationships, you can find barrels that are already aged and you can create a brand of your own. You don't necessarily have to have the factory. You don't have to build the distillery and create the liquid. You can just, for a lot less money and a lot less exposure, you can actually buy barrels and put a blend together and launch a brand and test the water, see how well you're going to do. If your brand takes off, and you want to build a distillery, great. But you don't have to go that traditional route. And so at that time, that wasn't very well understood. So at this point in time, I'm a consultant, and I am talking about some of these different avenues that allow people to get into this business so that maybe you don't have to spend millions of dollars building this distillery and operating for 5 years, waiting on your bourbon to get ready and doing all these other things to try to sustain your business, like tourism and restaurants and concert halls and vodkas and gins and all these other. Not there's anything wrong with those things, but you didn't have to go that way. So in this same time frame, Joe, who had a previous career path, was getting into this business and had done a lot of work trying to figure out exactly what it was he wanted to do, and it took him all of about a few days or a week to figure out that building the distillery was not something he wanted to do. He didn't have the skill set, and he didn't want to own a factory. So our initial discussion around this, I met Joe while I was actually building a distillery for a client at the time, and we're having this conversation, and we're talking just like you and I are about these different ways to get into the industry. And he had already figured out that he didn't want to build the factory. He wanted to build the brand. And so he was already sourcing barrels, and he had already sold, cases by himself into different markets in New York City. And so we had this real synergistic experience right there where we were on the same page, and we knew the direction to take a company that wanted to just build the brand and at that point in time not build the distillery. So that was in the 2014 time frame. I remember having this conversation with Joe that most people were trying to build these distilleries, and that if we're not going to do this, then what we should do is own this blending thing. Because at that time, nobody was blending. Blending was a 4-letter word. I mean, it was, you blend. You can't blend just because there's formal definitions that are not traditional for what bourbon lovers love about bourbon. And we were going to step into a place where we were going to take bourbons from different distilleries and different states within the union and potentially different whiskeys from all over the world and put unique products together based on flavor profile with a goal of putting the most flavorful, complex products in the bottle and only making those available for our customers. And so we started with batches of bourbon, and the flavor ride is continued from there. We've been in business now, 12 or so years at this point.
I mean, I love it, and I can remember those times when you guys started out, and you're right, it was a 4-letter word. Blending wasn't a big thing, but now Everybody's trying to do it.
That's right.
You guys are like the granddaddy of a blending house, and there's so many other people out there trying to recreate it and stuff. And just because you got millions of dollars, don't mean you can do it. I want to say that that's my big chief's opinion, and that's just what I think. Just because you're rich and you got an idea doesn't mean you know what the fuck you're doing. But Barrell Craft Spirits definitely knows what you're doing. I always say this, and we were talking about this, but to me, it's more important about what's in the bottle than the bottle itself or the label on it or anything like that. What kind of damn cork's in it, or what the cork topper looks like. I don't give a shit about any of that, really. I care what's in the bottle. And this foundation right here, that nuttiness is just sticking on my palate. And a couple episodes ago, I talked about, as a hill country kid, we take Dr. Pepper and drink a little bit of it, and then we take a bag of salted peanuts and put in there, and kind of eat it as a meal. That was almost lunch. And I get a little bit of that in this whiskey right here. That nuttiness is just coming through. And I could almost bet where this whiskey comes from. Some reason I know that nuttiness flavor that I know so well. I love this. So, there are growing pains and stuff, and you guys have really graduated in doing this, and you guys just did would you call it an expansion, or would you call it a new facility, and put in these monstrous ass blending tanks? I mean, they're humongous. You guys really went for it right here.
Yeah. So part of the original plan, when we were starting this thing, is that you don't need all the new expensive toys just to begin building a brand. You don't. There's some techniques you need to know. There's some sanitation aspects of taking care of your equipment and blending and cleaning and all these types of things. And you can meet all of those needs with used equipment in smaller spaces, doing a lot of the work yourselves. You can do that, and we've done it. I've done it many times. And the plan was to be as minimalistic as we could without sacrificing the product itself. We still wanted high quality product in the bottle. And so we did that for a long time. We worked in small facilities for a couple of years. We actually did a lot of contract work for a few years, bouncing around different distilleries, using their DSP, contract bottling, doing blending at night, all these different things with these, these core values in mind with how we're creating these whiskeys, until we were able to actually get our first facility. And even our first facility was nothing fancy. I mean, it was literally, it looks like a bomb shelter from the inside. I mean, it was it's just a concrete building. All the walls are concrete, no windows. It was originally a data facility, so it had data racks and control rooms and all that stuff in there. But there was nothing pretty about it. And we got some additional equipment and scaled up nominally at that point, and basically did what we needed to continue to grow. But we didn't jump off a cliff and say, let's just go build this massive facility. And then after living in that place for, I guess we were there for about 5 years, 6 years, when we started talking about an expansion. Because by this point, we've grown pretty rapidly. We're in nearly every state in the country by this point, and we've expanded overseas into a couple of European countries. And we were really busting at the seams in this little building. So we decided that we were going to go buy we were looking. We wanted a facility that was already freestanding. The zoning was already correct. It was going to need, we weren't going to have to do a whole lot of remediation because we had a plan. We were working on designing something, and we really knew what we wanted to put in place. And so we found a 30,000 square foot building that fit all those criteria, and we designed a new blending and bottling facility that combined the office space for the entire team with the blending, the barrel dumping, blending, processing operation, and the bottling operation all under one roof. And that's the way we like to work. We try to keep the whole team together as best we can. And so we had, I think we have 8 blending tanks, a couple of dump troughs, and 2 fairly well automated bottling lines that allow us to run a couple different products at the same time. And, we can utilize some change parts and do some contract work. The whole idea behind the design and build of this was that we could manage our growth for the foreseeable future, as well as partner with some additional brands and provide some contract services and help them grow as they move along their path as well. And so we've been in that space since about June of 23. We've been operating out of that new build.
I mean, to me, I just got to see videos and photos, and I was like, man, they've really upped their game. But one of the points you just made, and I want to go back to this, is you don't have to have new equipment. You don't have to have that shiny new penny, that shiny new car. A used car will get you to where you're going. And I've talked to many craft distillers about that, is don't blow everything, your investment, on brand new equipment. When that used equipment that somebody's proven that works, they just either went out of business or they want to change their life and sell out, or they bought brand new equipment. Use their old equipment, and it'll make good whiskey for you. You just got to know how to use it properly. And a couple of friends that are in the distilling industry, they've did that, and I think the proof's in the pudding in that. You don't have to have that shiny new car to make good whiskey. You got to know how to make good whiskey.
It's 100%,
when it comes down to it.
100%.
Now you got two old stills sitting behind you. What are those 2 stills you got there?
Oh yeah, those are. Can you see them?
I can. I can see the edges of them.
Okay. Those are sister stills from Scotland. So those things were built in, I guess, right at the end of the 1800s. And I found those and decided I need them, part of my collection. I have a real fascination and appreciation for the way whiskey used to be made, 150 years or so ago.
Yeah.
When the master distiller was, building the still himself or repairing the still himself, when you were using, all the different types of hydrometers to figure out not only the proof but your tax bracket. So I've got all kinds of different distillery equipment that's, quite a bit older than me, and probably a lot of stuff that a lot of people haven't seen before. Just because I have an appreciation for that, and it's not stuff that you see every day.
I love that you want to preserve history. That says a lot about your company, and to show others and know about it and understand it. I would almost have thought that you got those out of George Washington's distillery at Mount Vernon, because they kind of look like that.
Yeah, they're similar.
And it'll make you, a visit to there would make you respect the craft for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as you heard, listeners, I poured another pour of whiskey because I done went through the foundation, that spectacular pour. But I just poured some of this Barrell Bourbon Batch 37. Tell me about what this is all about.
So I believe that last time we were talking about Batch 35, and that was a 6-year-old product. And since we've released Batch 7, which I believe was or Batch 36, which I believe is a 7.5-year-old product, and that's just the youngest whiskey in there. This Batch 37, we've kind of been moving up the age of the base whiskey a little bit, and this is a blend of whiskeys aged, the youngest being 8. There's also some 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-old whiskey in this. And so there's quite a bit more aged whiskey in this product than we have used in batches in a long time. So in addition to that age, what we're also looking at is I can't remember if we were doing. I don't think we were doing derived mash bills when you and I spoke last.
You actually were talking about it though. You talked about it a little bit.
Okay.
Derived mash bills, and I really loved that.
So we
that
started. So we did start doing it. There's a lot of questions around what the mash bill is. You know, as a consumer, if you don't understand a whiskey or you're not familiar with it, one of the data points you can get off the label is a mash bill. And that's one of those things that has been difficult for us as blenders because we use so many different whiskeys in the product. We don't have just a mash bill. But since we keep getting asked all the time about what's the mash bill and it'd be helpful to have that information, we decided to do what we call a derived mash bill. And so we actually take all of the whiskeys that we use in a blend based on all of the volume of each of those whiskeys that we use, and we calculate based on that volume usage in the final blend what the derived mash bill, the mash bill of each of those whiskeys used in the blend, and we calculate an overall mash bill to try to provide a little bit of context as to what flavor you might get out of this product. And the derived mash bill in this one's going to be a 78 corn and 18 rye and a 4% malted barley. And there it is again, 18% rye, right in that wheelhouse where we always end up.
So this is 111.38 proof. And listeners, I'm a wheater. I love some wheat. And it's rare that I have some almost not back-to-back episodes, but this has got a lot of sweetness on it, a lot of caramel, that burnt caramel that I'm looking for in a whiskey. I've taken 2 or 3 sips of this already. And Tripp, this is going to compete for my whiskey of the year.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I feel like that. I drink, and listeners probably thinking, well, how much whiskey do you drink, Big Chief? Well, I might go through 1,200 to 1,500 expressions a year of whiskey, just stuff I'm getting to try, going to festivals, going to distilleries and drinking every expression. This year so far, I've had 2 other whiskeys that I had said, hey, I think this could be my whiskey of the year. I think this right here will compete with it. It's at that right proof for me. It's that got that right sweetness, and this is a rye, which is shocking to me because I would have thought this had some wheat in it somewhere.
No wheat in this one.
Wow, it is sticky delicious is what it is.
Thank you.
When I say kettle corn, if you've ever went to a fair and you've seen that giant kettle and they pour that popcorn in and then they let that pop and then they pour sugar in there and let that caramelize on there, man, this is, and if you could just take and put like hot honey in there too,
Yep.
For the spice on this, this is, man, you guys are shocking me. And I haven't looked this up. I didn't want to spoil it for myself because I just felt like that's doing an injustice to you guys when I look up other people's stuff and say, oh, what did everybody else say about it? I want everybody to know what Big Chief thinks about it. And this is going to compete right here, folks. And if you stick around to the second half, you might be able to get a bottle of this right here. But that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, you know, you're at batch 37. How many batches have you guys put out so far?
We've actually put out, I think it's been 39 batches. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. There's been a couple of times over the years where in the early years we were blending very small batches for just a handful of different reasons. And there were a couple instances where we had a couple of lots, groupings of barrels that we were working with, and the product that we put together was so good that, I mean, we received such great comments about these products. We loved them, and we actually tried to do a very similar style release that was as close to that batch as we could make it with that lot of barrels that we had. And the first time we did that was batch 7. So when we released batch 7, we personally were wowed by it, and we got that same sort of feedback from the market. And so Joe and I talked about trying to recreate it but not calling it the same thing. So it's like, well, what would we call it if we don't call it the same thing? I don't want it to be batch 8. So we decided that we would do 7B. So it's if you've been following us for a while, then you know about batch 7B, and that was the reason that we did that. And these barrels of whiskey that we used for bourbon batch 7 and then also in bourbon batch 8 were all very closely related, similar areas within the rick house, similar profiles but not the same. And so after we did batch 7B, it was like, well, how do we top this? And so we started playing with the blends in the lab and ended up with this batch 8. And batch 8 was a little bit different, but we had that same kind of, wow, this is much better than I thought we were going to be able to do. And again, received a lot of the similar feedback from the market. And so we decided 7B did so well, let's do 8B. So we did 8B. And so same thing. It was just a little bit more of a product that was very similar to the original. Not exactly the same. We weren't going to claim that. But very similar, another very small release of those. But those are the two additional, batches that don't have their own dedicated batch number in the flow from 1 to 37. So it's about 39 in total.
Wow. I'm sitting here listening to you, but it's hard for me to focus because this thing is sitting on my palate, and it has got one of the longest finishes on it. And it just, people ask me all the time, and I know I said this on a lot of podcast listeners, but why do you do this, Big Chief? Why, what's your favorite whiskey? My favorite whiskey is a whiskey that I taste on a show, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is some magic in a glass right here. Why don't more people know about this? Well, because they didn't talk to Big Chief about it. But you know right now, you better get your ass to the store and buy a bottle of this batch 37. I'm telling you right now, it is something special. It's got a great color to it. It's a little darker than that foundation, I think. It's got a darker caramel amber color to it and stuff. Remember those, you could get that like amber rock. I don't know what that stuff is called. It's like, there would be like a scorpion in it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's almost got that color to it, and I'm glad there's no scorpion in there, but there's some hot honey. There's some hot honey in this glass right here. I'll tell you that. It's got some spice to it. Great job. We're going to keep sipping on this in the second half, listeners, and we're going to kind of dig into Tripp a little bit and see if he can tell some secrets of what's coming up. And then he sent me this bottle right here. This is some old ass whiskey right here, 20 years old, and I'm excited about this. It's kind of buttery looking, so listeners, you stick with us, and we're gonna tell you about Tripp's history and how he got into this game right here of blending whiskey. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Leaper's Fork Distillery is an artisan distillery working to bring back the history and heritage of a small batch whiskey production to Williamson County. The distillery crafts premium spirits using local ingredients and limestone filtered water to create superior spirits with a signature taste. Yeah, I love their wheated bourbon. Leaper's Fork Distillery is characterized primarily as a low-volume, low-impact concept of production. They are excited and honored about bringing back a lost art and industry to a county that always puts its history and heritage at the forefront. Visit them today at leapersforkdistillery.com. All right, listeners, we're back for the second half, and I'm going to get Tripp's last name right. I got Barrell Craft Spirits. That's with 2 L's on the end. And I got Tripp Stimson. Did I get it right that time?
There we go.
I want to put a P on there for some reason, but Tripp Stimson with us. And Tripp, what's your job there at Barrell Craft Spirits? Are you just jack of all trades?
So it's my official title is Chief Whiskey Scientist and Chief at Distillery Operations. Basically, jack of all trades fills that void sometimes too. There early on in our career with this company, we all wore many different hats. doing all kinds of stuff. You drive a forklift, drive a box truck, unload a truck, load a truck, roll barrels, put barrels away in the rick house, pull barrels out of the rick house, all that stuff. I mean, I've done all of it. As we've grown, it's been great to have a team to work with. We've got a great team, and they help with a lot of those things, which allow me to focus a little more on what kind of products we want to produce, what kind of innovation projects do we want to work on, and look, big picture about kind of where we want to go, directions we want to move, how do we want to stay up front in the innovation and blending space. And then there's all the stuff that you have to do, all the legal stuff that has to happen, the licenses and the TTB documentation, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to do on a daily basis just to be able to operate in this space.
What did you do before you came to Barrell Craft Spirits?
So I worked for Brown-Forman. I was a research and development scientist for them right out of college, and I spent the better part of a decade with them, and then started a consulting company because there was that movement into the craft space, and people wanted to get into the industry, and everybody wanted to build distilleries. And there were people who didn't really understand what that meant, what that looked like. And so I tried to provide a pretty honest vision of what it's going to look like to design and build a distillery, to operate a distillery, what that business plan looks like, and the realities of making money at that point. If you've got a tight budget and don't have a whole lot of money, then it's going to be a different story as if you have unlimited funds. So trying to be as honest and open about what the industry is really going to be if you go down that path, and then also provide an additional option, which is this barrel procurement, brand building opportunity that allows you to focus on brand building. It gets you into the industry for a lot less money. There's a lot less long-term risk just by buying barrels and building a brand. And so that's really the message that I was trying to send in that time frame prior to meeting Joe. And then meeting Joe, already being aligned with what it looked like to build a brand and the plan to build and grow that brand based on a flavor-focused blending business. That's really what moved me from wanting to continue to be in the consulting world and really partner with Joe and continue to build Barrell Craft Spirits. And so I've been doing this 22 years at this point.
So I can see your beard has been growing for 22 years,
Yeah.
and you got a head full of hair. Now it's gray now, so
Yeah, that's right.
I can see the stress coming out. Now, listeners, if
That's
you've
wisdom,
been watching,
Mike. That's wisdom right there.
Hey, look, I hear you. I hear you. I wish these would turn gray too. I'd be happy. Look like I got two big ass caterpillars on my forehead is what it looks like. Listeners, now if you've been paying attention, I poured another pour of that batch 37. Now usually when I do that, that means I like the whiskey just a little bit too much. And that would be this right here. And and I told Tripp in the half that I really do mean it. This thing has a long finish. It's got a little bit of saltiness on it as it's sticking on my palate. Almost like a saltwater taffy a little bit. I rarely get that saltwater taffy, note and stuff, but it's sticking with me. And that's what I look for. When it rolls on into my cheeks and I can feel it right there and it sticks with me, and I'm getting a little bit of that nuttiness on it with that saltwater taffy and stuff. Almost, in Texas or in Tractor Supply, you can get these pecan rolls, log roll, and I get a little bit of that. If you remember back in the day when they had Stuckies all over the place and you'd walk in there and get one of those, there's a little creamy centerness of that, and I get that in this right here. But that hot honey sticking with me, that kettle corn Tripp, man, spot on this. And I think there's an art to that of blending from 3 different states, different distilleries and stuff, and getting it just right. I'm sure it racks your brain when you guys are doing this.
Yeah, it is certainly a process. When we look at this, we often get asked, how do we go through this process? How do we come up with, in some cases, 6 or 8 different distilleries, or 8 or 9, 10 different age groups, and really it's letting the whiskey sort of guide this thing. And I know that being unsure the direction that you're going with whatever you're working on is often a little chaotic and uncertain. But what we've learned to do is be comfortable in that uncertainty, and we'll create a base blend of whiskeys that we like, and without having a whole lot of idea where we're going with this whiskey, we'll put the blend together and let the whiskey tell us what it's missing. So there's only so much within that flavor spectrum that you're going to be able to fill with flavor without beginning to cover up some of the other flavors that are already there. And so we're very mindful of that in this process. So as we taste this base blend, we're looking at what are the components that we like that aren't in here? What's missing from this thing? Is the fruit in there? I like the stone fruits. I like a lot of the dark cherries. I like a lot of the zesty orange. I like those characteristics. And if they're not in there, I want them in there. So I'm going to go find them. We're going to go find a bourbon or a whiskey that has those characteristics, and we're going to put it in there in some concentration so that we taste it, but that we're not covering everything up. And then we're going to taste it again, and we're going to say, okay, well, we've got those characteristics in there, but maybe we need a little more dark chocolate. Let's say maybe that's what's missing in the final balance. And so we'll go over here and we'll pull some bottles out of the library and say, let's try a little bit of this and see what happens. And maybe the dark chocolate fits well. Maybe it's layering in the complexity just like we want. Or maybe just a little bit of that particular bourbon mutes the whole thing and covers everything up. Well, that one's not going to work. So then we back that one out and we start over. We go back into it again. And so we walk through this process very diligently, very carefully, making sure that all of these different bourbons that we add are continuing to layer in flavor that we can continue to taste. So we're within our perception threshold, but we're not covering up any of the other flavors that are already there. And by the time we get to the end of this thing, what we have is a blend that is so cram-packed full of flavor and complexity that we can't push any more into it without pushing some others out. That's when we know we've gotten to the end. That's how we know we're right there where we want to be.
I love it. You're not trying to cover stuff up. You're not trying to hide barrels that you probably regret buying. You're being honest with your consumers, especially with just breaking down those mash bills and stuff. I really enjoy that. And I'm obviously enjoying this whiskey right here. After a long day at work today, extra overtime, I needed something like this. I needed to kind of refresh my brain and say, okay, this is the part I do and love, is finding whiskeys like this that are sent to me. And I'm so grateful that you're a guest on here. Now, you guys sent me this other bottle here that I told everybody about before we went on break. I'm about to pour this. It's a lighter looking whiskey, but this is 20 years old, and this joker's it's got a proof on here, 142.7. Now, when I got this package, there was no big triangle or anything saying, "Hey, watch out."
That's right.
But this is called Decade. Now, this is something pretty special for you guys, though, right?
Yeah. So this has been a fun project, and one that we started some number of years ago. So the product name is Decade, and what that's referring to is the 10 years worth of whiskey that we used to put this thing together. And so the base whiskey that we used in this was 20-year-old Canadian. We used whiskey every year following that all the way up until it was 30 years old. So that's whiskey from 1995 all the way to 2005. So within that 10-year span, we use whiskeys from every year. So that's where we get decade. It's Canadian whiskey. Canadian whiskey for the bourbon drinker typically, well, I'll say in a lot of cases, kind of gets overlooked a little bit. It doesn't have the typical flavor characteristics that many of us know and love that's in bourbon. So what we wanted to do is focus on Canadian whiskey for what it is and the nuanced flavor characteristics that it has inherently and how those characteristics changed over the course of those 10 years. Now, keep in mind, I'm sure your listeners know, but I'm going to say it anyway. Canadian whiskey is typically matured primarily in ex-bourbon casks. And those ex-bourbon casks can be used over and over and over and over and over and over again. So at some point, it doesn't get a whole lot of contribution from the wood, right? There's not much left to give. And we don't know how long the particular casks have been used. So we're purely going off the flavor profile of the whiskeys that we have. So as we're putting this blend together, being very careful not to hide the individual nuances. So this is the way I described we approach these batches. It's even more difficult with the Canadian whiskey because the nuances are so delicate. So as we're tinkering with this thing, you know, we're talking in the lab about where do we want to go to get some additional flavor for this finishing process, and what kind of flavor do we want? And we obviously wanted some additional wood characteristics, but the question is, what kind of wood did we really want in there, and why did we want it there? Because we have all kinds of different barrels made from different woods that some use, some not, different toast profiles, different char profiles. And so one of the finishes that we landed on is a Hungarian oak. And these particular Hungarian oak barrels are, they were virgin barrels with a light toast on them. So what that's going to do is add some more wood character to the whiskey that's missing a little bit of wood character because of the way they're matured originally using those ex-bourbon casks. And so that's where you're going to get a lot of the fortification from that, the light toasted notes, and there's some toffee in there and maybe even a little bit of cinnamon that comes through from that. And then once we got that balance right, it was missing a little bit of sweetness. So we'd taken care of that additional wood character that we wanted, but we needed it to round. We needed it to round out with the sweeter notes that we like so much. And so we used probably a less familiar finishing cask than most people have tried, which is a Spanish brandy cask. And we've used them previously for other types of product. In fact, if you go back to, well, actually, there it is. This bottle right here is an Irish whiskey that was finished in Spanish brandy casks. We did that many years ago. But the Spanish brandy finish has a very silky, fruity finish that it added the flavors, but it added some really great texture and mouthfeel to this thing. So what we ended up with is a Canadian whiskey product that is what is considered a true hazmat product. It's over 140 proof. It's blended from whiskeys that are 20 years old all the way to 30 years old, with whiskeys from each year in that decade, finished in both Spanish brandy casks and toasted Hungarian oak casks.
Well, I tell you what, this is a grown man whiskey, a grown woman whiskey right here. You want some hair on your chest,
Yeah.
This is it right here. But, I would tell you, right here, silky smooth all the way to the mid palate, and then it goes back, and that spice, that proof hits you a little bit, and it gives you that right balance of spice. the viscosity on this is shocking because it'll fool your brain when you look at it, and it almost looks like a light whiskey in the bottle, to where it's got a very buttery look to it. So it would fool you, but then you see it with the legs on the glass, and you're like, okay, this has got some viscosity to it. And then you sip on it, and it's just silky and covers the back of my palate. Very beautiful. This right here is a perfect after dinner sipper right here, man. This is I love it, and I haven't had a whole bunch of hazmat whiskeys, listeners, in my life. Maybe more than a dozen, maybe, because there's not a whole lot out there. And 5, even 10 years ago, you wouldn't even hear anything about no 142. And I've drank some Canadian whiskey in my life, mainly in highballs, Canadian Club, like all day long. But this by far is the best damn Canadian whiskey I've ever had in my life. I love it.
Wow,
And
thank you.
that's saying something. I've had some really good Crown Royal bottles before. We got a guy that lives not too far down the road from us, and he's got the biggest collection of Crown Royal I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anybody that has like these just super rare bottles, but this right here would be super rare to me. 20 years to 30 years is something amazing. I might have to hide this little thing away for special friends that come over and say, hey, let's break into old Big Chief's cabinet. And this is the kind of whiskey I love to share with people, because not everybody's going to get their hands on something like this. How many bottles of this did you guys do?
I honestly don't remember the release number on these bottles. We released them into the market, and then we held some back for an online release. I think we still have some. I don't know if you can still buy them online or not, but they are available in the wild. They are on shelves. And we actually, if you're local to Louisville, Kentucky, we actually still have a few of them in the gift shop.
Listeners,
Still.
if you're going to Louisville, go to their gift shop and buy one of these bottles. I love salted butter, and especially Irish butter that's salted. And that, I'm getting that on my tongue. For some reason, that saltiness is coming through on this. Man, what a beautiful whiskey. Now, your bottle shop, your guys' gift shop, where are you guys located at in Louisville, Kentucky?
So we're in J-Town. If you're in Louisville, it's on the east side of town, coming from Lexington. We're just right off of 64. We're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 5, 10 to 4. 10 to 4, we're open, and we have a lot of what is released is available in the bottle shop. We have a lot of old stuff that has not been available on shelves for a long time. We've been taking some of our stocks and making them available. We get a lot of questions about early batches, like the single-digit batches, or certain like rum finishes and things of that nature. And so we offer a few of those things in the bottle shop as well. So there's a few different things in there that you'll find that you won't see in other places. But then we also offer the gamut that you'll find in a liquor store. So we've got the core offerings, all the foundation stuff, the new Black Label series that we're offering, which this Canadian Decade is a part of, and we're doing a small tasting while you're there too, so it's a little bit of try before you buy opportunity. So we've got all that. So if you're in the neighborhood, come by and see us.
I'm loving this right here. It's excellence in a glass right here. I love stuff like this. I mean, I'm just blown away. My mind's blown by it. It makes me think of what was going through their mind, and how did you come up with it? What about the risk of even buying a bunch of Canadian barrels? The risk you are taking at that, especially in you guys are really in a bourbon market, but you guys had other expressions. You guys had I believe it was a rye that was a seagrass, if I remember right, that was just like out of this world that people just like, oh my God. You guys were doing stuff before everybody else was. So I'd say you're like the grandfathers of this blending art. And I think blenders, because of you guys, have got a lot of recognition, and I think that's great. So what's the future look like? What do you got up your sleeve, Tripp? You got to tell me something for listeners out there. What can listeners expect?
Well, I'll tell you this, Mike. It's to create products like this decade. This project started some number of years ago. I mean, we've been playing with these types of finishes and these types of barrels for a long time, and some of the things that we're releasing now. Here's over my other shoulder. This is a 20-year single barrel that spent 5 years of its life in a secondary cask. And so, to be able to release products like these two types of products, there's got to be a lot of forethought and innovation to try to be as far ahead of things as we can be. And so we've looked at different types of wood barrels and ways to treat them, and other ways to get flavor, and different blending techniques and things of that nature. And we've been working on a lot of this stuff for many years before today. So the products that are coming out, you're going to see you're going to see some very, how do I want to say this, some very unique blends and finishes of things that might not have ever been available, or some that are finished for longer periods of time under certain conditions that allow for subtle contributions that we're going to be able to make available to more of our supporters. So there's a lot in the pipeline that's coming. So stay tuned for a lot more flavorful whiskeys.
I love it. Well, Tripp, man, what a discussion we've really had here. And I can't say thank you enough for, number one, taking this ride with me again. You're probably like, God dang, this is boring talking to this old joker. But seriously, I really do appreciate it. And you send me something that I might be able to call my whiskey of the year. That would be something spectacular. And we'll see how it fares amongst these other ones. And we're still, we're only 7 months into the year, and other people might make that list and stuff. I don't know. Who knows what I'm going to taste the rest of the year? Who knows what's going to get stuck in my hand? And I'm just like, okay, this is pretty damn special. So I hope it does. It'll fare well, though. I'm pretty positive. So so listeners can come see you guys. Where can they find you guys on social media?
So all the social media platforms, we're on Facebook, Twitter, X, LinkedIn. Everything is at Barrell Bourbon or at Barrell Craft Spirits. We've got a little bit of a YouTube channel, and you can reach out to us if you have questions, or you want to email us at contacts at barrellbourbon.com. The website, barrellbourbon.com, you can find all the information to all the products that we release on the website, even all the way back to the first batch that we've released. If you're trying to find a specific product, we have a store locator on the website. So wherever you are, you can go to the store locator, you can put in the zip code, and it'll give you the stores that carry the products around you. So, I mean, we're pretty easy to find. We're now nationwide, and we're in a handful of other countries as well. So,
what countries are you guys in?
So we're in the UK, Australia, South Korea, Ukraine. I believe we're in Canada, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple here. But we're continuing to spread our wings. We're moving into the Norwegian countries, so we're really making a push for the European markets.
Well, you guys sent me this extra bottle. I was like, man, what they send me this extra bottle for? Listeners, it's for you. One of these bottles right here is for you. This bottle right here, this batch 37 right here is for you, with the World Spirits Competition Gold on here. Shit, this son bitch get up damn platinum right here. Rarest whiskey on the face of the earth right here, I think, because old Big Cheese loves it. But how are we going to give this away? Let me tell you, listeners, this is what we're going to do. Because Barrell Craft Spirits is trying to work on their marketing, and they're on TikTok. They don't got no videos on there yet, so let's help them out. Help me help them out. And what we're going to do on TikTok on this, I'll put a post out about this on TikTok. But what I do on that post, what I want you to do is I want you to tag 4 friends on there. And also, for you listeners that have supported Barrell Craft Spirits, Barrell Bourbon, I want you to take a photo of your bottle of Barrell Craft Spirits that you love and post it on there too, because you can do that in the comments. So tag 4 people, post a photo of your bottle, because we want to support people that have supported them, and you're going to get this batch 37 right here. Not everybody's going to get one person. You got to be 21 years old, and you got to reside in the United States. But this right here could be yours. We'll let it run for a week, and then I'll pick a winner, and then we'll get it out to you. But I think that's pretty amazing. All you got to do, tag 4 people and post a photo of your favorite bottle of Barrell Craft Spirits that you have on your shelf. And I think Tripp would agree with that. Support those who support you, and lift you up. You want to raise them up. And for people out there that couldn't get their hands on this yet, you could get this bottle right here. So what's the cost of this on the shelf, Tripp?
On the shelf, those are $89.99. It'll vary a little bit based on market, but $89.
That's a pretty damn good giveaway. And listeners, just to throw in a little spice to that, just a little spice, I'll actually take and throw in 2 of the whiskey Tripp glasses in there for you to drink your whiskey out of right there, baby. I'll throw 2 of these in there with you, tagging 4 people, tagging that Barrell Craft Spirits right there with a photo. That's what I'm talking about. That's living. Well, listeners, you know where you can find old Big Chief at the Whiskey Tripp. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. And I'm on YouTube now. You got to hit that subscribe button. Hit that follow button. Wherever you're looking for me, I'm all over the place. If you listen on the Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're obviously listening to the Bourbon Life as well. Old Matt and Mark, they're doing a great job putting out content for you. But if you like what you hear from them, you like what you hear from me, please hit that, leave us a review, hit that 5 stars. Don't leave us 1 star. But please leave us some comments on there. Tell us what you thought. And then you could copy and paste those comments back over on my Facebook page. I'm trying to get to 100 reviews by the end of the year. Maybe Mr. Tripp here will give me a review. I don't know. But I would really appreciate it. Those comments, those reviews, they open up doors to distilleries like Barrell Craft Spirits. Get great whiskey in my hand, like this batch 37 that quite possibly could be my whiskey of the year. And it gets great guests on here like Mr. Tripp with his magical beard. It really joys up my life. It really gives me enjoyment to have guys like Tripp on my show and to bring you great content and bring you the story of Barrell Craft Spirits and let you know what they're all about. They're about the whiskey in the bottle, not the label, the bottle itself. And it's a sexy bottle anyways. It fits in a well, it fits in my hand, it'll fit in a bartender's hand, so that's what's important. The whiskey in the bottle, and I'll tell you what, the whiskey in this bottle right here, it's something delicious to drink. So take old Big Chief's word for it. Every week, I'm trying to bring you great content. Reach out to me, Mike at the Whiskey Tripp. If you want to tell me about a distillery in your backyard that you want to have on my show, I'll do my damnedest to have them on it. As long as they'll send me whiskey and I like it, I'll have them on my show. If I don't like the whiskey, probably won't have them on the show because my grandma always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't fucking say nothing at all. That's just my take on it. If you don't like it, oh well, I don't care. my granny would get that switch and whip my ass with it if I wasn't nice. So that's what I got to say this week, listeners. Make sure you check this out. Share it with your friends. Tell them to follow the Whiskey Trip. This is old Big Chief, and thanks for taking this ride with me.